Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to QML 55. I'm Jeremy, and we are looking forward to today's session. We will be talking about our 4 agreements, and we'll be hearing from Abel Cruz, Doug Wells, Mike Jossie, and Jim Gilman. We also have a great panel ready to take your comments and questions, so you can begin submitting those anytime during the session. And with that, we will get started and jump right in. We will first hear from Abel Cruz.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are. My name is Abel Cruz. I'm the managing director of the Qualfon business. I'm very happy to be here with you, sharing and revisiting on 4 very important agreements that many of us have aligned ourselves around how we want to act in our company, in Qualfon, in our family, part of our culture, part of our DNA. Mike has presented this to us in the past, and we had quite an extensive QML about this. In just highly reviewing them, one of them is keep commitments at Qualfon. The other one is move fast at Qualfon. Add value at Qualfon, and then spend wisely at Qualfon. There's going to be several of us reviewing each one of them today. My turn is to concentrate on key commitments at Qualfon. Here, first of all, it talks about a word that's critical for us to use as a base for this is committing. Commitments means that we are promising that we're going to act in some way and deliver something in the future. That's a commitment. We promise to someone that we're going to deliver, that we're going to perform, that we're going to do something in a given point in time, in a way, in a shape, in a form that is according to both, the receiving end as well as us delivering. We both agree on how that's going to happen. That is critical for us because if we deliver on those promises, for example, in using Qualfon operating model in all of our sites, in all of our operating sites, if we do that consistently, we're delivering to our customers a promise that we made to perform in a certain way. That's one very important commitment. That's a cornerstone of our operation. Another example is committing with an action plan and then following through. We sit in a meeting room or a virtual meeting and we agree with others that we're going to work on a certain plan of action, and we all do the best we can to deliver that action plan in shape and form and time according to budget or below budget in terms of expenses, or better than plan if you're looking at revenue. That's another way of reflecting that we're keeping commitments in Qualfon. Part of it is our budgeting, in how we budget and how we deliver our budget. Starting and ending meetings on time, that's a simple way of measuring if we are delivering on our commitments at Qualfon. If we keep that commitment, typically that's going to replicate in other areas of our daily actions, in our daily work. Learning from our mistakes is another way of keeping commitments. We need to always do things better. We need to always improve. That's part of our values, acting with excellence. So if we want to embody that value in us, part of keeping our commitments to that value means that we're learning from our mistakes. We're going to fall. We're going to have issues. We're human. The key is how do we get up again? How do we learn from it and don't make that mistake again? Last, another example, that's another good example of keeping commitments at Qualfon is meeting our deadlines. We commit in our plans, commit in our budget, commit with our clients, commit with our colleagues on delivering something in a given time in a certain way or form. If we do that on time or before time, 2 minutes before, 5 minutes before, a day early, we are keeping those commitments, and that's helping them keep their commitments and it's a chain reaction that expands throughout the organization. So let's all of us remember that part of our collective agreements in Qualfon, one of them is keeping commitments. Let's commit to working on these 4 agreements. And to talk about the second agreement, which is Move Fast at Qualfon, let's hear from Mike Josie, our Chief Person Officer. Mike?
Everybody, thank you, Abel, and thank you, Jeremy, for facilitating today's QML. I had actually asked to talk about Move Fast at Qualfon. I think it's an incredibly important agreement out of our 4 agreements, and I think there may be some confusion or clarification that we can all use as leaders on what it really means. You know, first and foremost, and I referred back to the Mission Leader book, is, you know, service level agreements or SLAs aren't just for operations. It's for the person office, finance, IT, any of the support organizations. We should have a service level agreement on how we respond to issues. And it's pretty easy for us to prioritize what those issues are, and do we respond in 2 hours, 4 hours, 6 hours, and are we doing that in a way that's satisfactory to our customers that we're supporting? You know, next is we want to respond faster than our competitors do. That's either to our customers or that's internally, because that may enable us to move quicker than our competitors. So if that's bringing up a new site, it's bringing up a new client, we always want to move quicker than our competitors may be able to move. You know, we always have situations that are emergencies, you know, then we need to respond and maybe drop everything, and then an SLA may move from 2 hours to 2 minutes. And you have to be able to judge what is urgent and important and what isn't urgent and important. And then really never put off until tomorrow what we can do today. You know, I start every day with a list, prioritize from the most important to the least important, and my goal every day is to accomplish all those tasks. And then this is one that I don't think we talk about enough, but if we don't have a strategic partner or a vendor that is moving quickly enough or providing quality to us, then we need to find a partner that can and who can move at the same speed as that we can move at. Now I'll switch to away from the Mission Leader book and talk a little bit about basketball and one of my favorite basketball coaches. And it's a coach named John Wooden, and he was the coach of the UCLA Bruins back in the 60s and 70s, had the greatest winning streak of all time in NCAA basketball. And he had this line, and my dad used to say it to me when I played basketball, and it was, be quick, but don't hurry. And to me, that means move quickly in terms of quality. And so it's the combination of the two. So when you think about basketball, you can move too quickly and cut down a lane, and someone doesn't have the time to pass the ball to you where you could have made an easy layup. Where if you would have taken your time, be quick, and you didn't hurry, you had the ability to make the shot. The same thing goes for business. I think we have to prioritize the quality and the speed versus just doing everything in a rush. I think it's really important. I think there's some other pillars of success John Wooden had here that I would like to share. One was avoid delays. And I think of that sometimes in procrastination. You know, how do you get over that hump? And we all may have to deal with that, you know, every day, or maybe once a week, once a month, whatever it is. Figure out how you avoid delays. Avoid the word maybe. You know, it's do or do not. In my world, there is no maybe. You need to act. You know, act quickly, act with the right speed, with the right quality. Move on from mistakes. Sometimes we'll make a mistake and we'll get caught up in that. That'll avoid a delay. And I think that's one thing that we all can learn from. And the next one, I don't think people follow this enough in business, but follow your instincts. I like to say when I don't follow my instincts, you know, bad things happen. So follow those instincts. There's a reason that we've had them, that we've built them up over years and years and years. But John Wooden used these pillars of success in the line about, you know, be quick but don't hurry, that led to a lot of success. And when I think about this criteria in this agreement, that's what it really means to me, is how do you mix it with quality to deliver to our partners within business, for operations to deliver with our customers, and ultimately for ourselves to move faster as a company than our competitors can move.
Hi, this is Doug Wells. I'm our Chief Operating Officer for CES. Today, I'd like to talk to you about one of our 4 agreements, which is add value at Qualfon. So what does add value at Qualfon mean? Well, simply it means we are committed to find better ways to serve our clients and our colleagues. There's a lot of different arenas that this sort of surfaces, but let's hit on a couple. So one of the first or most obvious ways, especially if you work as an example in operations, is meeting or exceeding our client KPIs. This is fundamental to our success and to the partnership we have, because ultimately those KPIs indicate whether we are servicing their end client to the best of our ability, and ultimately which makes our client successful. I think we all know missing is not an option. Ultimately, day in, day out, the best way we can add value to our clients is be 100% focused on achieving those KPIs. We report on it across our entire enterprise, across each individual client. I can assure you, when you talk to all operational teams, they understand those KPIs and the criticality of them to our clients. So I think that is the most obvious way to ensure that we're being successful and, more importantly, adding value to our clients. Along those same lines is knowing our clients' business as well as they do, if not better. One of the best ways our clients understand that we have a sense of urgency and that we understand their business is by proactively bringing to them solutions, being cognizant of challenges they are facing in their industries, and more importantly, how we can help them solve and solution for those. When our clients answer our surveys every year that our team puts out to them, it's very obvious if we do, or more importantly, if we don't understand their business, because they're going to tell us that. And from a client's perspective, one of the best ways we can always add value is understanding their business and, again, bringing those solutions back to them. Along those same lines of knowing our client's business is also ensuring that we know not just what is needed, but why it's needed. What do I mean by that? One of our other values is moving fast at Qualfon. And as part of that, sometimes we are asked by our clients to solve an issue for them. And I think it's critically important that we understand the why. Not just, hey, yes, Mr. and Mrs. Klein, we're going to solve this issue for you. Here's our plan of attack. But we understand why, because then, again, you tie back to the importance to the client. And understanding why we're solving that ties right back to that we absolutely understand our client's business. And again, this just plays huge payback in adding value to not only our clients, but ultimately our peers and colleagues. Helping others get better at what they do. This is near and dear to my heart. And the reason that is this really ties back to mentorship. Being a mentor, having a mentor, all those things absolutely help us get better at what we do. I have had the great pleasure recently of not only being a mentor, but a sponsor for individual going through our site director certification process. And one of the most important things that we can do is be a mentor, because this essentially ensures we're training our future leaders who are going to lead our company. And I can't think of something that adds more value, not only back to our clients and colleagues, but to Qualfon in general. If our future leaders are well prepared, they understand what's going to be asked of them, expectations, KPIs, financials, whatever the case may be. And I think if we consistently can keep those sort of pillars in front of us, then we absolutely will meet our ability to add value at Qualfon. Thank you.
I'm fortunate and honored to have the opportunity to provide my perspective on the last, but not least of the 4 agreements, spend wisely at Qualfon. Let's start with spend. Certainly, we initially think of spend in terms of money being exchanged for something. Supplies, electricity, computers, but we spend in other ways. We spend time. As we know, time is money. We might spend opportunity cost, which is the opportunity we are giving up in a decision we might make. Spend is broader than making a payment for 1,000 pesos or dollars. Next, we have wisely, and let's look at the definition. Wisely, in a way that shows good sense or judgment, prudently. Wisely, in a way that shows depth of discernment or understanding, insightfully. So spend wisely at Qualfon. Spend at Qualfon in a way that shows good sense or judgment, prudently. Spend at Qualfon in a way that shows depth of discernment and understanding, insightfully. All that said a little differently, and please excuse me for the directness, but spend wisely at Qualfon does not mean be cheap. Many of you are familiar with the idiom, penny wise but pound foolish. For those of you that may not be, the internet's a wonderful thing and you can find how the idiom is defined. Penny wise but pound foolish is used to describe something that's done to save a small amount of money now, but will cost a large amount of money in the future. More than a different decision may have cost now. We want to spend wisely at Qualfon while making certain not to be penny smart and pound foolish. We want to strive to make the right financial decisions with a priority on the long-term cost and/or value creation. A couple recent examples are top of mind. We need 100 computers for a new client launch. Do we buy the cheapest computer? Well, what if the processor it has is not powerful enough to run the version of the Microsoft operating system we know is needed 2 years down the road, needed to be compliant with our information security policies? This results in the machine being rendered useless in 2 short years. The wise decision is to spend more, within reason, of course, for a machine that will last us 4 years or more. Another example, do we give a client a price break now to mitigate a high probability risk that the client moves to a competitor? This example might not be what you think about when you think about spend wisely, but it is. A decision is being made to spend some margin dollars now to mitigate the risk of losing all the margin dollars in the future. Another example, we're building out a new site and we can either deploy an expensive LED lighting system or a halogen lighting system at a fraction of the cost. It could take 10 years of replacing halogen bulbs, and the halogen system is still less expensive than the LED until you start taking other things into account. Like that, the LEDs use 80% less electricity, dramatically reducing the time to break even. Then you factor in the positive impact using less energy has on our environment. And finally, how positively these environmentally sensitive but expensive decisions are viewed by our clients. Might cost us more now, much more, but it saves us in the long run, creates value with our clients, and most importantly is the right thing to do for our environment. Maybe contributing a small amount to leaving the world in a better place for our children and our children's children. Absolutely positively, we should always be doing our diligence when it comes to the spend we have under our control, whether it's office supplies, buying the right quantity at the right price, decisions as to where we might fill open positions, maintaining the correct staffing levels, or on which printer we might produce a customer job. But there are a number of other areas, oftentimes more significant, where spending and more broadly making financial decisions in a way that shows good sense, judgment, understanding, and insight can have a material impact on Qualfon's ability to carry on its mission for the long term, showing what it means to spend wisely at Qualfon. Thank you so much for your time, and I appreciate what each and every one of you do every single day. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. We want to thank Jim. We want to thank Mike Jossi and Abel Cruz and Doug Wells for their presentations. Now we're excited to hear from some panelists who are joining us. In fact, joining us from the road today is Elizabeth Mays, our VP of the Person Office. Elizabeth, thank you so much for making time to join us while you're traveling. So I want to start with you. these 4 agreements, we've heard about these 4 agreements. We're all familiar with the 4 agreements. I would love your perspective from the person office about the importance of these 4 agreements, and would just kind of love to hear your thoughts on them.
Yes, well, first of all, thank you for having me. I'm thrilled to be here, and greetings from Dallas, Texas. I'm in the great state of Texas and soon to go into our DFW site. So yeah, the 4 agreements really are the pillars of success. I find they're like our guardrails. They keep us on track. So when we need to make a decision, there are 2 filters that we can use. One are our values. Does this align with our values? And the other is, does it align with our 4 pillars of success, these 4 agreements? And so I think that's very, very helpful as we run into critical decisions, right? To use them and leverage them to make good decisions. And I would emphasize, I mean, all of them are equally important, but the move fast at Qualfon, doesn't mean move fast and do it poorly. It means move fast and do whatever that thing is well. So fast is not a substitute for well. And in order to do whatever it is that we're doing well, we need a lot of practice, right? We have to get very, very good at our jobs. We have to learn and master and perfect whatever is our chosen role within the organization. And then when we perfect that as best as we can move quickly, but also do a really good job at it. And so those are my thoughts. Jeremy, back to you.
Great. Thank you very much. I love the idea of practicing. I think that's a very good way to look at it, as we all need to practice these things. That is great. Again, you all can submit your questions and comments, and we will put those to the panel here. Now, we do have a question here. And Mike, I'm going to throw this to you. If you're not the right person, you can punt. Okay, but we're going to throw it to Mike. Mike Lee is here. He's our managing director for CES, and actually it's a Highland Park question. So if you need to punt, that's okay. But the question is, our Highland Park facility seems to be stuck in the Stone Age when it comes to updated technology and computer software. How can we change this? Mike, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I know we've got, our normal process from an IT standpoint where we upgrade, our computers, software, technology. But this is something I'll personally, bring to Ian, who's our SVP of IT, make him aware of that. Just to see if he can, dig a little deeper to see, what we have in Highland Park from a computer, software, technology. To see what does need to be updated, because it's perfect timing right now, because we're right in the middle of our budgets for next year. And, what we want to be able to put in our budgets for any kind of upgrades. But I'll reach out to Ian specifically regarding Highland Park and the computers and, software.
Great, thank you. But you're not off the hook yet, because I'm going to ask you another question, Mike.
Okay.
So we talk about these 4 agreements. We hear from our senior leaders. What if I'm not in leadership or senior leadership? What if I'm an agent? What if I'm a supervisor? I'm not, at the upper levels of leadership. Can I still have an impact on these 4 agreements, Mike?
Great question, Jeremy. And you can have absolutely an impact on all 4 of those. For example, keep your commitments. You have a one-on-one with your supervisor, you have a one-on-one with your operations manager, and keeping those commitments of what you agree in your development plan, in your one-on-ones on a weekly basis is huge. The value add, you heard Doug, talk about delivering on our KPIs. Make every call exceptional from an agent standpoint. Do that extra upsell. But from, add value, we can add value on every single call, every interaction that we have with our, clients and customers. Spend wisely. You might, it's not only are we spending Qualfon's money wisely, are we spending our clients' money wisely? So work your schedule, work when you're supposed to, so that we're not charging our clients, a higher dollar amount from, what we should. And then, move fast. You heard Mike Jossi, talk about, move fast. Do we have the right average handle time that we need from an agent standpoint? Are we able to talk and type at the same time to make sure that, we are moving fast, but with the highest quality? So those are just some examples, with the 4 agreements from an agent standpoint.
Great, thank you very much. And I have a question that has person office written all over it, Elizabeth. So here's your question. How do we make people who are not here for the long haul be committed to what they do? That's a great question.
Well, that's a very, very good question, because there's many studies that prove that another person cannot motivate another person. That individual has to motivate themselves to be committed to something. But what great leaders do is they build and they inspire. So if we're great leaders and we spend our time, and that means supervisor, OM, site director at every level of the organization, finance director, it doesn't matter what the title is, if we all strive to live what's in our 3 dimensions book, right, and live that mission leader definition, then we will inspire people and they'll want to follow us. They'll want to follow the lead that we set. And by doing that, will commit themselves. So that's how we can help people. We can encourage them, we can inspire them, we can lead them well. Ultimately, they have to make the commitment, but we certainly can make that easier for them by them wanting to be part of our team. Like if you think about sports in high school, for example, word would get around amongst the community of kids, like who was the best baseball coach and who was the best football coach, and you wanted to be on that team, right? Because they were going to get you into a D1 school, right? And have a strategy around that. So the same is true in business. So I think the biggest key to helping somebody really commit in the organization is to be a great leader ourselves. And then our people will commit to the mission.
Great, thank you very much. Matt Carlton is here on the panel. Matt has years and years of site director experience. And so, Matt, I just want your insight, your thoughts from the standpoint, the viewpoint of a site director. How important are these 4 agreements?
Well, they're critical. As everybody has already expressed, we live by them. To me, they're almost common sense, but we publish them. We publish them and we make them public and we follow them, and that helps to drive the discussion so that we're talking about it. To Ellie's point, when we practice, you're not practicing if you're not talking about how you're conducting yourself around these 4 agreements. And for me, in my world, it just kept it in focus so that everybody's working and respecting and moving toward those 4 agreements on there. So having them published and having them out there so the discussion is continuing is super important to me.
Thank you, Matt. Now I've saved perhaps the hardest question for Al Baranachia. Al, and I hope this is not too tough. Abel talks about keeping commitments, and he talked about how it's a promise. So is there a difference between a commitment and a promise? And I would love to hear your thoughts on that.
Can I punt that one over to Mike?
No, you have to.
Well, promise and commitment. Perhaps I would think of a contract versus a covenant, where, a covenant is not to be broken, right? So perhaps that's what a commitment is, right? Is not to be broken. In business, we know very well what a commitment is, but we always, we can always apply it in our families, in our communities, everywhere we do work, right? Abel also talked about something that caught my attention very much, and that was, sometimes we fail. Sometimes we do break the commitment. We fail for whatever reason. There may be a very good excuse for it, whatever. But he also talks about being able to get back up, right? So if we fail in maintaining a commitment, it's not all over. It's not the end of the world. We can always get back up and do it better the next time, right? So I thought that was an interesting comment he made as well.
Well, thank you, Al, and I know I put you on the spot there, and you did a great job. And all of our panelists did wonderful. Matt, Elizabeth, Mike, Al, thank you. And of course, we want to thank Jim Gilman, Mike Jossie, Doug Wells, and Abel Cruz for their presentation. And we want to thank each of you for joining us, and we will see you next month for QML 56. Thanks and take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you all.